After examining all the files on the Adobe Bridge, I've decided just to work with these two to put together to enhance them. And I can already see a problem. I can see that the bottle has moved, or the camera has slightly moved between the two shots. So that's a little bit of a problem, but very, very fixable. I'm going to show you a really cool trick when that happens. So first thing I'm going to do here is use my Move tool, holding my Shift key down, with this image being the selected image. I'm going to drag this guy over with the Shift key held down to center it the best it can and drop that in. I can see by the way it just moved, it's not proper. So we're going to close that off, and let's work with this image right here. Now we'll open up our layers panel, and we can see big time moving here. So it is not the end of the world. We can fix that very easily. So a great trick for that when you're trying to register something is to take the incoming image and invert it. We want to do a Command I or Control I to make that sort of a negative image. Then I'm going to change the opacity. Since I'm in the Move tool, I'm going to just hit my 5 key and make that 50%. We can see a positive and negative image laying on top of each other. I'm going to zoom in here right to the top of this so we can see what's going on. And with my Move tool, I'm going to use my arrow keys to start moving that image over to see if we can actually align them exactly on top of each other. When they align, the image kind of sort of cancels each other out. So you can kind of see the image, and you just find a highlight or something. I can use something like this and try to go back and forth into those guys. I'm really worried about only this area right here. This is the area in which I'm going to paint in just a little bit of a highlight. I really feel the rest of the bottle's looking pretty good all by itself because there's a lot of light coming through it. So with that in set, I can see that that's lined up perfectly. I will go back and do again a Command I on the PC, Control I to invert the image and bring that back up. Again, I can use my scrubby slider to bring that back up to 100%. So there's the image, and there's the other image. Now, I'd like to go ahead and paint a little bit of that highlight on there, but I want to protect it, make it a lot easier for myself. So let's go ahead and create a small path around that. I will go to my pen tool, make sure that I'm in the path option. I'm going to make sure that my rubber band is checked. Auto add delete is checked, and I'll be in the very last box here. I'll zoom in a little closer, move in. I'm going to start at 12 o'clock. I'll put 1 point right here, and I'm going to start coming out to about 2 o'clock. Click and drag. Now I'm watching where I'm coming from, but I'm also setting myself up for the next point, right about here. And then a click here. And I'll come back around, click, click, and down in here. I'm not going to go down across the bottle, so I'm just going to really go right into this area right in here. I'll come back around, click, bring it up here, click and pull, watching where I'm coming from, but also getting ready to set myself up here. 1 point, no pull here, just click. So I'm ready to change directions. I'll come to about the middle point here, click and drag up, watching the curve, and I'm setting myself up. Now if this curve isn't exactly right, I can always adjust the handles, click and pull very slowly. And you notice because I didn't click and pull that first one, when I click that last one, you see a little zero, boom, I've sort of created my nice clean selection here with the path. I'll go to my path panel. I will just hold down my Command key or the Control key in the PC, click that, turn that into a selection. I'm going to go to any of my selection tools to pull up a selection option here to go to Refine Edge, and I'm going to add 3/10 of a pixel feather. That's all I need to just give me a very clean aliased edge. I don't want it to be too sharp. This 3/10 of a pixel is a great amount to give it a more realistic, just ever so slight feathering to that. Hit OK. I've got that set. Now we'll go back to the layers panel and bring that guy in. Let's go ahead and add a black layer mask. Actually, let me deselect that for a second, because if I do it now, it's going to just sort of just put that whole part in. So I'm going to deselect that. I will do that a little bit differently. Let's deselect that and add hold down my Option key and add a black layer mask. Click. Whoops, right there. And click. Now I've got a black layer mask hiding that area. Go to my path panel. I'm going to hold my Command key, click it, got my selection, Refine Edge, got my 3/10 right here. Hit OK. Now back to the layers. Now I'm going to use a white brush. Go to my white, pick a white brush, pretty small, or use my bracket key to bring that down. Make it a little smaller overall so we can see what we're doing here. And let's just try at a small flow. Let's see what happens if we just give it a little swirl here. Just want to give it a little highlight area in here. And that's all I'm really looking to, just to give myself a little clean edge before, after. Before, after. I'll make that a little smaller. I like that. Okay. And if I'm not sure about the opacity, I can always take that down a little bit. I've got total control over how I want that highlight. And I don't need to keep that as a separate layer. So let's go ahead and just drop that down. I'll do a Command E or Control E to merge that down. Now, one more thing I need to do here is I see a lot of little specks and spots that were little dust spots, little imperfections. I could go in with a very small cloning tool or spot healing tool, but this is a good time to use because they're all white. Let's use the dust and scratch filter. Now, a great way to do that is to first of all go to our history panel and let's create a new history state. I'm going to create with a little camera here, click that just to make sure that that is the current history panel that we're going to work with. Let's throw that in the garbage. Just so because we put that together. This represents this new retouch version of the shot. Okay, so far that's the one we would paint to. Now, I'm going to create a little, you could do it as an action, and this is where you could repeat it all the time, but I'm going to just do it live. Of course, anytime you want to do something over and over again, we can always create that as an action. But let's just go ahead and do that as a step-by-step piece here. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Filter, Noise, Dust and Scratches. And what I normally do is take these both down to 0 to start with and start moving the radius up until I start to see those little spots disappear. Now, of course, it's blurring out and smoothing out the image way too much. I even will take it up even a little farther. Then I bring the threshold up until I start to see the texture come back in the bottle, which will basically look like the image without any spots on it. Right about there. So we see the preview before, after, before, after. Now this will take out a lot of details where we don't want it. So what we're going to do is apply the filter. You can see it right here in the history panel. Now I'm going to take a snapshot of that, click, and make that the active snapshot that the history brush will work from, and I will throw away the dust and scratches. So what will be is back to, basically back to this image, but that is going to be where we're going to paint from now on with the history panel, with the history brush. So I'll go to the history brush. If we have white specks, we're going to want to use a darken blend mode. If we have black specks, we'll do a lighten blend mode. So we'll go to darken, and as I paint here, you can see it's going to pretty much just easily paint over. I'm not going to paint everywhere. I'm only going to paint where I see these little white highlights that I don't want. And as you see how it leaves the texture pretty good on the rest of the shot. And I'm just going to take out all these little defects that we don't seem to like. And of course, if I see some black ones, we may switch over to the lighten blend mode. But like right here, I can see a little speck there. So if I didn't like that, I would go to lighten, click that off. And of course, there's a few here and a few here like that. Go back to darken. And that's looking pretty good. Just a few little specks. If anything I don't see that I don't particularly care for, any specks here, maybe there's a few specks in here I don't like. And it's so much easier to do this than it is to sort of option click or clone, or if you're using the spot healing tool, it might be picking up areas that you don't really want and then you're having to redo it. It's a constant battle for this. So this is one of the easiest ways to just take out dirt, is just using a history brush with the dust and scratch filter. If I see some areas down in here I don't particularly like, you see how it leaves the rest of the image alone as I brush. It's really cleaning up only the white areas that I don't like, little specks here. A little bit right in here, that's no good. And finally, maybe a little bit in here. We don't need those highlights. Take that one out. And I think we're just about done with this. And we'll hit our tools. And I feel like that is giving us the final image that we like. Clean little perfume shot, standard candle hang, very interesting background. Background stripes kind of tie into the product itself. It could be used as an ad, could be used as a catalog shot, could be used as a web shot, many different usages. You give it to the client in the highest possible size so that they can then size it down for other usages such as web. You can't go backwards the other way, so I always try to work large, and that way you give them smaller files. They can always create the smaller files later from the large files.